guys, welcome back to our kitchen. Enjoy the recipes. Hi guys, welcome back to another recipe in our kitchen. Today I'm going to do a pork chops in the IP, and they won't be the dry, tough kind that you get when you fry, which I kind of like. Just pour gravy on it, but these will be fork tender and really good. So you need your pork chops, and I always get the bone in because I think they have more flavor. The great thing about the Instant Pot is you can do your potatoes up in there too, so you're eliminating one pot and getting it all done together. So I got some potatoes because I'm going to make mashed potatoes because we make gravy, which you'll need the cornstarch to make a slurry. You're going to need a little bit of oil, kosher salt, black pepper, and some chicken broth. And that's all you need. And of course your IP. And you'll make some really tender chops. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to peel up our potatoes and get them ready to drop in the IP. And after that, we'll go ahead and put some oil in the IP and then season our chops and get ready to sear them. Okay guys, I've got my potatoes peeled and my chops are ready to be seasoned. I want to say a few things about the pork chop. First of all, this is a center cut, bone in. I don't know if you can see that. And these are thick. This is probably at least a good inch thick. And the thing about the IP is the thicker your meat, the more time you got to cook it. So I'll probably cook these for about 20 minutes because they're about an inch and a quarter thick. So at this point I'm going to go ahead and season up the chops, and I'll see if I can get in a little bit. And this is just a simple salt and pepper seasoning. I like the freshly ground coarse black pepper. I think it's got a little bit more punch to it. You don't need a lot, just grind it on there or sprinkle it on there. And the same way with the kosher salt. Just put it right on there. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and crust these up in the IP. I have the IP warming up right now, and that's how I season them on the front. I'll season the back side when I put them in the IP. I'm waiting on the IP to get hot, and it'll tell me when it's hot. And at that point I'll add in about a tablespoon of oil. I like cooking with olive oil, but I'm just out of it right now, so vegetable oil works just fine too. But the idea behind waiting until it gets hot to add the oil, it's supposed to be become a non-stick surface. I don't know if that's bull or not, but I've done it and it seems to work. So I'm going to wait for it to say hot, and then I'll add in my oil. Okay, it says hot. It doesn't take too long to get there. And I'm not measuring, but if I were to measure, it'd probably be a tablespoon. So just, pour a tablespoon or so in there. Get it in there. And it spreads around in there pretty good. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it almost makes it like a glaze. Now I'm going to go ahead and drop in 2 pork chops. I'm not going to crowd my chops at all. I'll take this guy. Oh yeah. I'm going to go ahead and stick 3 in here. And there they are. And I'm just going to let them sear in there for about a minute or 2. In fact, I'll set a timer for 2 minutes. Meanwhile, I'll go ahead and season this side of the chops and I'll be ready to flip them when I need to. I'll go ahead and grind some pepper on there. See that right there inside the IP. It's not a measurement, it's just kind of sprinkling it so that salt lands on them. You don't want to overdo it, but you do want to get some on there so it'll crust up nice. And we'll go ahead and let that crust, and when the 2 minutes is up, we'll flip them and do the other side. Okay, there's our 2 minutes. Go ahead and flip them. Should be seared up pretty good, and as you can see, it did not stick. Just drop it on the other side. Now I'll go ahead and set the timer for 2 more minutes on that side. And as you can see, as I hope you can see, they're seared up really nice. Got a good crust on them. These will be some good chops. Meanwhile, I'm going to get an extra plate to pull these out and set them on. Let them just sit there while I brown up the other 2. So have a plate ready, depending upon how many chops you have. We like chops around here, so we do at least 2 each. So, so there you go. But you can only put so many in there at a time. So I'll get a plate out. The timer ended, but we also ran out of saute time. It only sautés for 10 minutes. So just re-hit the saute button. And pull them out. Take a look at them. Very nice. Put them on their side plate. Whoa. Try to be careful. We'll edit that out. I'm going to take my 2 other chops and go ahead and drop them in. Set the timer for, again, 2 minutes. And just wait. I don't need to add any more oil or in there because a tablespoon is plenty. So I'm going to go ahead and season this side. Don't be afraid to put some pepper on there. And then my kosher salt. I just sprinkle it on. As you can see, it's not a measurement, it's just a judgment call. And I do highly recommend using kosher salt. It's I just enjoy cooking with more. In fact, they got all different kinds of salt. They got pink salt and big coarse salt and sea salt. I like the kosher salt. It's sea salt. It's just good to cook with. Not to use as table salt, but to cook with. There's our timer. We'll go ahead and just simply flip them. Reset the timer. The thing we're going to do next is we're going to deglaze the IP, which means we're going to take all the goodness from the searing of the meat and loosen it up and get it lifted off of the bottom of the IP. And we do that by adding our liquid. Now most IPs need at least a cup of water in order to operate properly. I'm going to use about 1.5 cups of chicken broth. I like to cook it with chicken broth. It gives it a lot of flavor. You could use water as well, but I'm going to use chicken broth. So I'll get that ready to deglaze the pot. We got just about a minute left on these chops, and like I say, I'll deglaze the pot after that. Don't put a metal spoon or anything like that in there. Get a wood one or something plastic. You don't want to scrape your IP. I use a wooden one. They're good to have. They come in handy for a lot of things. You can hit people. You can, you know, take your medicine. You can also lay it over the top of a boiling pot and it'll simmer the boil right down, which is really cool. I don't know why it does that, but it does. And you can use it on your IP to deglaze, which is very important. So get yourself one. Maybe I'll buy you one for Christmas. So if you ain't got a wooden spoon for Christmas, how come? There's my timer. Okay, so we'll go ahead and pull these off. Try not to drop it this time. We'll just give that one to Rachel. And I don't know if you can see it, but let's take a look. This is the bottom of the IP. It's got all that goodness in there. So I'm going to go ahead and add my cup of broth, and it'll probably steam up. There it goes. That's 1 cup. I'm going to stick another ½ cup in there. And what we're going to do is we're just going to use our wooden spoon, stir it around in there, and you can feel it. You want to get them stubborn chunks up, because that is going to add flavor to our gravy that we'll make later. Now the only thing about the IP that I've struggled with, and I'm still learning by the way, is that the gravies don't thicken up enough to my liking. I like a good thick gravy. I don't like a watery gravy. So I'm slowly learning how to thicken it up, and it's usually a case of where you got to add more cornstarch. And cornstarch and water make a good slurry mix for it. Okay, now I've pretty much got up all my bits. So what I'm going to do is I wash my potatoes. Now these are small potatoes. You know, it's just small potatoes. But if you get bigger ones, you might have to quarter them or half them. Go ahead and just drop them right on in there. Oh yeah, you can shut down your saute now. Or let me just go to cancel. Yeah, I'm looking upside down. There we go. Drop your potatoes in there. Get your trivet out. There's a little thing that comes with it. And then just set it up there so that it sits on top of it. And let me show you what I'm talking about. My trivet is sitting on top of them, the potatoes. And I got plenty of juice in there, at least a cup and a half. Now what we're going to do here is just simply put the chops in. So we'll go ahead and put the pork chops back in, and they've cooled down enough to where I can touch them. And this, by the way, is not the biggest IP out there. It's just a 6-quart. You can get a bigger one. I didn't buy you a bigger one, but if you really go crazy, you can get a bigger one. But I find this to be plenty for the 3 or 4 of us. And then I'm going to take the juice, because juice is always good, and I'm going to pour it back in on there. Okay? And that's pretty much all there is to it. Let me show you what it looks like. That is the IP with the 5 pork chops on top. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my lid on. Make sure it's in the seal position so no steam will come out. And because these were like at least an inch thick, I'm going to cook them for 20 minutes. I'm just going to hit my meat setting and bring it down to 20 minutes. I must have cooked the roast or something last time because it was way up. With the chops in there, sealed in, we'll cook them for 20 minutes because they are thicker. And we'll do a NPR, natural pressure release, for probably 15 to 20 minutes. You don't want to force a release, just let it go naturally. It'll be much more tender. And then we'll use our slurry mix, half and half of the cornstarch, maybe 3 tablespoons to 3 tablespoons of water. And that'll make our slurry to thicken up our juice that'll be in there. It'll be really good. And they'll be probably some of the best chops you've ever had. Okay, 29 minutes in. It went and dropped. NPR, natural pressure released. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up and take a look. Let's take a look. And there they are. They smell good. Okay, so what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to take these out of the pot and let them sit. You should always let your meat rest for 5 minutes or so. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and make the potatoes that are in the bottom of this, turn them into mashed potatoes. And I'm going to use my slurry, which I made with 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, and this time I use milk, but you can use milk or water, however you want, and 3 tablespoons of milk. And that'll help thicken up the gravy. So I'll go ahead and pull them out, and we'll go from there. I'll get the potatoes out and put them in this bowl, and I'll just mash them. Everybody is good and done. When I make mashed potatoes, I just use about a half a stick of butter. I'll go ahead and drop that in. At this point too, I'm also turning my IP on to saute so I can get the juice to warm up, and then I'll add my slurry to make the gravy. But right now I'm going to go ahead and mix up these mashed potatoes. I've got my butter in there. I'll use a little bit of the juice from the potatoes. You can use milk if you like, it doesn't matter. I find this gives it a little bit more flavor. But add your liquid slowly. Otherwise you'll end up with runny potatoes. And nobody likes runny potatoes. looks good. Now the last portion of this is to make up the gravy. And with the Instant Pot back on saute, it's the juice is starting to boil in there. And that's what you want. I'm going to go ahead and add my slurry mix. And then I'll just stir it up. To let this thicken. As I've said before, I have issues making gravy in the IP. It can never get it thick enough. It also tends to clump up on me, and I don't know why for sure, which always makes me tend to drain the gravy. And this gravy doesn't look like it's going to be any different than the other gravies. It looks a little watery, and there is a lot of clumping going on, so I'll go ahead and drain it. But I've still yet to master the gravy in the IP, but I'm trying. It's been drained, and I'm going to pour it back in the IP. See if I can thicken it up just a little bit more. Meantime, I'm going to go ahead and call everybody down for dinner, because we are ready. Here's how I do it. Alright, we'll try them. Okay, here we are at the dinner table, and the chops are done. They look really good. Rachel says they're fork tender, so that's a good sign. Internal temperature was like 160. It's a lot more than what they're supposed to be, but that ensures that they're cooked properly. The internal temperature is 145. I got mine up to like 164 or something like that. So they're good and they're done, and they're hopefully tender. Put a little bit of gravy on here. Again, it's not as thick as I like, but I'm working on that. So here's the finished product. Enjoy!